Okay, now it's taping. I'm here today with Leila and Rachel, and we're here to help Rachel to come to a conclusion on some questions that she has and to help her. And we're going to have Rachel, first of all, ask us the question that she has, and then we'll discuss her situation and see if we can help her to straighten that out. Rachel, what's bothering you today?
Hi, Noah.
Hello, Rachel.
Um, my problem today. Oh, and by the way, I'm a really big fan of your work. Let's
Oh,
just start with that.
thank you.
So my question today is, I met a guy I really like. We've been going out for almost 4 weeks now. He's discussing marriage with me. He's even been sending me pictures of houses we could potentially buy. So it's really looking like he has a long-term vision for me, and he'll say things to me about our future and is introducing me to his family. All that being said, he hasn't given me the commitment of boyfriend and girlfriend or that we're dating exclusively. I mean, his dating apps are still up. The dating app I met him on is still up, his profile. And of course, his Facebook still says single, which is absolutely fine. But I would just like to know that we are dating exclusively and have the reassurance of some kind of commitment, like we're boyfriend and girlfriend. And I'm not even fully ready for that commitment. There's a few more pieces I would need, but I would like to hear him offer that to me before I stop dating other guys, because that's a huge waste of my time if we don't end up getting together, because I want to get married this year and I want to date as many guys as possible. Um, but I don't want him to think I'm cheating on him by dating other guys, because he's expressed so much warmth to me and so much excitement for our future. So I don't want him to feel betrayed because of the level of intimacy our relationship is at, that we're getting closer and we're just clearly moving towards something. So what are your thoughts on that? I don't want to ask him. I want him to ask me. How
Yes.
can how can I make that happen without making that happen?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. If you tell him to ask you, then
Uh-huh.
after that, it's impossible. It basically the relationship's ruined because it's
Yes.
impossible for him to then take the initiative because he's just going to be following your instructions.
Uh-huh.
And that sets a really bad precedent for the rest of the relationship that you've gone from boyfriend girlfriend to like mother son. You're going to be treating him like your son and
Mm.
telling him what he needs to do, and that would ruin it. So your instinct is correct on that.
Uh-huh.
It's a really common problem. Men have not been taught by their fathers how to make proper proposals and commitment.
Uh-huh.
And what we have now, with people say, oh, people are commitment phobic, but that's not really what it is. They just they don't know how to do it.
Absolutely.
The other thing I just wanted to make sure we clarify for people is that when you say dating, you're really referring to going on a date. Some people say that they mean hooking up and having sex.
Oh no.
That's not what you're doing. You're just spending time with different men to get to know them.
Oh no.
Women's
Yes.
women's peak, and you're right at the peak right now of your SMV. This is the perfect time for you to be looking for a husband. There's probably not a better time in your entire life. You're at the peak, and that peak lasts for a very short period of time, and then it starts to decline. And
Right.
somewhere between getting just before the peak and just after, like somewhere in that 3-4 year period, you'll get the best possible husband that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you got to take it really seriously. Like men can be, oh, yeah, I'm getting married when I'm 35,
Mm-hmm.
because they can. A 35-year-old woman, her sexual market value is already declining quite a bit. And so women, they need to meet quite a few different men so that they have something to compare it against. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this didn't used to be a problem in traditional Western upper middle class sexual market, because what would happen is your father would allow only high quality men to be near you,
Right.
and your parents would actively encourage good families. They would invite a good family with some sons to visit your house, and then you would all get to know each other in a chaperoned environment. And basically, if your dad said, I think this is a good man, and you liked him, okay, great, and you can get married. There wasn't such the pressure that you, like right now, for young women, whether they get married or not, is all on them. It's like this big pressure on them. They don't have that support from family and extended family and community that we used to have. And so you really have to take it even more seriously, because you have to do the work that your parents would have done, the work you're doing, and filter out from a pool of men. But you have to have that pool to filter first. And that means you
Right.
need to date a number of men. Your instinct on that is also correct. And I know Leila has given you some positive advice on that too. If you don't meet enough men during that time period, if a man is going to get married maybe at 30, he's got 10, 12 years to meet women, and a woman wants to get married in her very early 20s, maybe she's got 4 years. That means she's got to compact all that dating down into 4 years. Okay, so your instincts are all correct on that. The issue about men having a difficult time knowing how to make commitment is, see, he's hinting at commitment with you. And he's probably hoping you will meet him in the middle. But that's not how romantic commitment works between men and women. What it is man proposes and woman says yes or no. That's how it works properly. If you get out of that pattern, things don't work. And he's probably hoping that you will somehow meet him in the middle. But that's not an appropriate way to start off a relationship, because he needs to take the lead. His job is to propose. And he should be doing that before he talks about things like where you're going to live and how many. It's good to talk with the woman you're interested in about what type of a lifestyle do you expect. You wouldn't want to propose to someone, even to be official boyfriend and girlfriend, exclusive dating, without having some idea of the lifestyle that they're expecting, because you're wasting both of your times. But you don't talk about the specifics until you have some sort of a commitment. And he probably just doesn't know that. Most men don't. I've recently talked to men who had no clue at all that they were supposed to be the ones taking the lead in all the proposals. They were supposed to propose to date. They were supposed to propose to be exclusive. They were proposed to be married. Okay, let the woman choose the date, but you need to take that initiative. And I think it's just like it's a lack of experience. And if you see nowadays the propaganda that young men are exposed to, television shows and movies, it's almost always the woman taking the lead in the relationship. And I know from talking to married couples who've been married for more than 10 years, many of them, if it's the other way, where she feels she's trying to take the lead and he's not keeping up with that, it's a tremendous stress on her.
Absolutely.
Women aren't psychologically built for that. They need to focus on their children and taking care of themselves and their husbands. And if they're also having to make the big overarching decisions of the family, it will stress them out. They will feel anxious and anxiety. They won't feel secure, and they won't be happy. You probably may have heard Jordan Peterson talking about how women are a little more neurotic than men, or maybe a lot more neurotic than men on average. And if you add on top of that the stress of constantly making big life-changing decisions, it's unfair to women to expect them to do that. There are some women who are fine with it, but they're a small minority.
Right.
And in order to get a man to be to take the lead, what normally the woman has to do is create a vacuum. So she does not take the lead, and she allows that vacuum of leadership to be there, and a good man will fill that vacuum. It's an instinct. It must be programmed at a genetic level, because even if you weren't taught how to do it, you'll be struggling your way there. You'll get a lot faster. If you know what you're doing, you'll get there faster. But the instinct is to go in that direction for men.
Okay.
The thing is that then what can women do to influence the relationship if the man is taking the lead? That's aside from creating the vacuum, because the vacuum then still relies completely on him recognizing there's a vacuum there and getting the hint and taking the lead. And that can take a long time. And you don't have the time for that. No women do. So I'm actually interested in hearing Leila's ideas. She read an excellent book that was was it The Surrendered Wife? She wrote 2 books. And there was some excellent advice on there on how to encourage masculine leadership qualities in your men. And if you would like to make some comments on that, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Sure, yeah. There I go. Sorry. Is that better? It was a big point in that book
well, there's two of them, the surrendered single and the surrendered wife. So obviously when you're dating, the surrendered single is what applies. She's written lots of other books too, but in the realm of dating, that was a big point, to continue seeing other men until you're asked for that commitment and exclusivity. And yes, thank you for making that clear. We're not talking about spending the night or anything like that. Nothing past just kissing, because also you need to, I mean, I know you know this, Rachel, and you don't, this advice isn't for you, but something I kept in mind was seeing it from his perspective, that whatever I'm doing with him and I'm allowing with him, him being the guy that I'm really interested in, he needs to be assuming I'm doing the exact same thing with other men, until that he's made that explicitly clear, that that's not going to be happening going forward. And like Noah says, creating that vacuum, that's a really big thing. And it's kind of a conceptual, like physical experience to feel that space and that discomfort and let it be there. And it's a real shift to let that be there and to stand with that discomfort in this, like, the universe guru, that woman on YouTube, yes. she talks about like holding that feminine energy or space or something, like when you make a request of a man and he wants to resist instinctively, you just stand there and you just wait, you know, and then let him, you know, do what he's going to do. So it's similar, but you're not making a request. Obviously, you want to lean back. She talks about that too, leaning back. Don't lean in, lean back and let him do what he's going to do. You know, he's got complete freedom to take the lead on the relationship, whether that means he doesn't do it and he doesn't pursue you and you have to allow for that possibility, or he really realizes what he wants. And I could see that happening with my boyfriend, kind of, you know, the wheels are turning, and, you know, women being kind of the relationship gender, you're maybe one step ahead of where his wheels are going. Right. but you got to lay back and let him go through that thought process, because I could see him saying to himself, you know, I want to know what she wants, and I want to know that she is thinking the same thing I am, that she wants to be in this relationship with me. But, you know, he kind of feels like, oh, wait a minute, I can't just ask her to take the lead. Then he goes, wait, what do I want? Do I want to lead the relationship? Do I want to be in the relationship? And then he would finally say, oh, I want to see you. I want to be exclusive with you. And on that particular question of exclusivity and commitment, like I told you, Rachel, and Noah was with me through the struggle. It was so difficult to keep seeing other men when I really wanted that commitment. And he literally saw roses on my kitchen counter that another man gave me. And he would literally ask me, what'd you do last night? And I'd have to say, I was on a date, and, you know, and that was how he knew there was competition. Right. So at him asking those questions, and then what came out initially for his feelings was indignation, and he was not happy about that competition at first. You know, men really do live to compete, but at the same time, he wants to know he's like already won the race, right? So you have to let him know he's still in the race, he's still in the running, and he might even be in the lead, but it's still a competition.
And that's quite scary. I can even see in the way your face and the way you're talking, it's a bit scary when you think, I got something good starting to go here. Yes. And I have to risk it. You know, there's, especially for women, because women tend to be more risk adverse than men. And this strategy risks the current relationship the overall risk of not having any relationship is reduced dramatically. You know, the overall risk of never getting married is reduced dramatically. But you put that relationship in a bit of risk because you're saying, like, you have to step up. You know, what Rachel is describing, where a man will want the woman to commit to him without him saying he is going to commit to her and making this explicit, is really, really common. And if you think about it, it's just basic human psychology. Human beings are a little bit lazy, and we try to get whatever we can get with as little output as possible. That's our natural instinct. And with relationships, there is the instinct for men and others as well to put as little as you can in and get as much as you can out. And that's not loving, though. When you really love someone, you're willing to put as much as is necessary into the relationship to make it work. So sometimes men, they don't want to completely commit because they're already getting the benefits of committing without committing. So why make a change to the relationship? That's risky, you see? And what Leila's describing there, that's from the woman's perspective, very risky, but actually it's very good for the man because it encourages him to finish what he started. The worst thing that could happen to you is to get into a relationship where he only commits to keep, like, I'm just going to commit because you want me to commit, and I don't really want it. And deep down inside, there's that seed of I don't want it. And 5 years later, I'm going to throw it in your face and get angry at you, and we're going to get divorced.
Yep.
That is something you don't want. And the strategy that Leila was speaking about, that weeds out people who aren't able to completely commit. That will weed them out. And when a man has to fight for something, he doesn't want to give it up.
Right.
You know, in military training, they often make them do things like fight just to be allowed to have a meal, fight to be allowed to have, like, they have to qualify through some competitions to get to have their gun, to get to have some privileges they have. Once they get those things, they take care of them, they maintain them. When something is free, when basically commitment or love is given to us freely, we don't tend to value it the same as when we've earned it. And quite frankly, a man earns love in the relationship by committing to something and then following through on the commitment. That's how he needs to earn the love of the woman. And if you get that love without earning it, if you get that commitment without earning it, it really reduces the incentive, and incentives matter, reduces the incentive for the man to commit.
Absolutely. So can I ask for some clarification really quickly? Okay, so if I've already created a pattern in the relationship and I've been like going along with, oh yeah, let's look for houses and let's talk about having children. If I've already created that pattern and I've been very available whenever he wants to go on a date and so forth, and breaking that pattern, I'm afraid he'll see that as I'm rejecting him since I've already began something. How can I walk this back naturally?
Well, you like we mentioned, you don't tell him what to do, but you're perfectly within your rights to talk about your feelings. Generally, if you want to convince women of something, you talk about feelings. If you want to convince men, you talk about what they think. Okay.
Right.
But when you're talking about yourself, you should talk about your feelings. I don't feel comfortable looking for a house now. Our relationship hasn't progressed that far. Now, if he asks you, what do you mean by progress? Like, what do you mean should be happening? And you say, I need more commitment, because he's asking you to tell him what it is. So he's taking the lead then. But you have to, as much as possible, speak, I feel this way. Okay. You're not making him feel or do anything, you know, and you're not saying you are making me feel this way. You're still in control of your feelings.
Right.
But he will then understand. And this is part of it. You're testing his empathy. An unempathetic man will not make a good husband and father.
Absolutely.
And so by telling him about how you feel and then seeing if he reacts appropriately to that, you will. I've seen men do things they were terribly uncomfortable with and didn't want to do because they knew it would make their girlfriend or their wife happy. Okay. And these were things that needed to be done. And afterwards, they even often felt better. You know, for example, my wife and I, sometimes she will encourage me to do things that I don't want to do by telling about how it's important to her. And then we'll do those things. And I'm like, yeah, actually, that was a good idea. I do feel better now that we did that. And vice versa, I will help her to do things that she doesn't think that she'll become, women are like more neurotic. So she'll be worried about the risk involved in something, and I will encourage her to do it anyway. And she'll see it's not so dangerous and not so scary. And so we help each other. This is why married people tend to be more well-rounded in their personality, is we help each other round out our personalities. And by telling him how you feel, you get him thinking more about feelings and emotions and understanding that more. And he wants, if he's hanging around you, he probably wants to please you.
Yes, okay? That's definitely true.
Yeah. And you can pick that up. He doesn't know how. And if you tell him what to do, like I said, then you're in charge. If you tell him about how you feel, and then he says, I think I have to do this, and he'll make an experiment, and he might not be right the first time. And if he's wrong, don't criticize the way that he approaches it. Just don't give any praise about it. Be kind of neutral. And if he's right, then be very thankful. If he makes a little bit towards commitment, very thankful. If he's not doing it, you just be kind of neutral with him. Right. Men know if a woman is neutral with them that there's something's wrong. They're not doing things quite right. They need to make some adjustments. And on the other hand, if they see outright displeasure, it kind of puts the hair up on your back, and you get a little bit aggressive, and you'll tend to create fights.
I like that.
It's a very peaceful way of expressing yourself in the relationship.
I could totally see that. Oh wow.
So
I never thought about that.
What you can say, I feel uncomfortable discussing X, Y, and Z at the way the level of progress that a relationship has. Okay. Right. And whenever you just talk, it's about you. You talk about how you feel and what is interesting in your heart. Okay.
Right.
To do that, though, you really need to examine your own heart.
Yes.
Meditation can help with that. We're often so distracted with everything around us that we don't really listen to ourselves. We hear what everyone else, we hear television, propaganda, radio, newspaper, internet, Facebook, and all of this stuff. And we have all this information shooting at us. And inside of us, there's a little still voice that's telling us what's going to be good for us and what we should do next and how we feel about things and what we're comfortable accepting. And we can only hear that when we block out all that other information and just sit quiet for a while and let that inner voice speak. And once it speaks, I find I usually have to write, when I come up with something, I come up with something, I write it down. If I don't write it down, I forget it. And then normally what I write down after I've been thinking about what I really want, that then becomes my goals for the next period of time. So you have to decide how you really feel inside, and not just, it's not binary. I like this person or don't, or I don't. It's, I like this about the person. I don't like this about the person, or I like this about our relationship. It's more about the relationship than the individual. I like this about our relationship. I don't like this part of our relationship. And then you can be very thankful for the parts you like and express that thankfulness. In fact, it's good to express the thankfulness first and then wait until he brings stuff up to express the discomfort you feel. The good words to use are, I feel uncomfortable. I am anxious about, I am nervous about taking this step. Like if he says, let's commit in this way, I'm nervous about taking that step, means not right now, or that the proposal wasn't quite correct. And it doesn't mean that because you're not saying no. In relationships, I really try to avoid saying no. I don't say no to my wife. I rarely say no to my son. What I will say is yes with conditions, or I don't think that's a good idea at this time. My son says, I want to play Minecraft. Okay, not now, you have to eat. You can play later. It's not saying no, it's saying you can play later. And by expressing yourself in this way, you're not directly challenging him for control of the relationship, but you still need to be present in the relationship. You need to be you need to express your personality into the relationship as well, but you're doing it in a very feminine way that way. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. That's really helpful when you said to be neutral instead of disappointed or like upset. You know, that's so different.
Yeah, men are women do this too, but we search the faces of other people when we do something. We show them and we look at them. You know, my son brings me something that he's drawn, and he looks and he says, "Look what I drew," and he looks to my face to see the reaction I have. And if I have a negative reaction, it's absolutely crushing to him. Now, of course, the things he draws are not great works of art, but I will be appreciative or praiseworthy of the things that are good about the drawing.
Absolutely.
And the things that aren't good, I'm just neutral about it. I don't say anything, you know?
Yes.
And if we do that in all of our relationships, where we're fairly neutral. I mean, men, sometimes it's our job to tell other men, you suck and need to get better. But amongst a group of men, this is why men need their own spaces, is because when you're with a group of men and you tell another man that you suck and need to get better, and you're specific about why, and we will help you, men look at that as actual care and concern. For us, that's like, oh my goodness, my friend really cares about me. He told me I sucked and need to get better. You know, like if you don't want to be the weak link in your social group. No man does. But you can't do that in a mixed sex group, and women can't do that to men because it hits us too hard, especially when the woman we love does that. It hits us really hard. I really appreciate that about my wife, is that, you know, if I screw up on something, and you know, we're all imperfect, we screw up. If I screw up on something, she won't bring it up. She won't say, oh, I told you so, and that kind of stuff. And basically she'll just, you know, help me clean up the mess, and we go on from there. Because I know I screwed up. It's eating me up as it is. And if someone else, if she says something, all that does is change it from my thoughts about how I can improve it to now if there's a fight happening. Now there's an argument, a disagreement. And you want to avoid inter-relationship conflict. There's not a real reason to have a lot of conflict.
Yes.
Because if you both love each other, there's not a reason to have a lot of conflict. You discuss things, you figure things out, but you avoid that conflict. And that means not pressing the other person's buttons. There are things that husbands shouldn't say to their wives, even if it's true. And there are things wives shouldn't say to their husbands, even if they're true.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of, it's respecting the psychology of the other sex. So I think that's basically what you can do from now. And you need to try to take some active note about when you say things, how does he react? And then you want to think about that. And did I get the reaction I want?
Right.
If you didn't get the reaction you want, you tweak a little bit how you say things. So men are notorious for wanting very direct instructional conversation, even if it's not the thing that they should be getting from their spouse or their girlfriend, but they're notorious for wanting it. They're not happy when they get it, but they want it. And so I've had men say, oh, why doesn't she just tell me exactly what she wants me to do? And, you know, I try to explain to them, because then she won't respect you anymore.
Right.
If you have to tell him what to do, he's no longer the head of the house, the leader of the relationship. He's now a child, and you're his mom. And that's completely dysfunctional. And that usually, I'm curious, is he, how was his family life growing up? Was he raised by two parents, or?
He was just raised by his father because his mother left him.
Okay, so a dysfunctional family.
Yes.
That unfortunately seems to be the norm. And either when you're raised in that situation, it means either the father didn't know how to choose a good woman, or if it was a good woman, he didn't know how to keep her. Now, if she left her own child, it was probably didn't choose a good woman. And in that situations, it's difficult for fathers to give advice to their sons, because they usually don't know what they're doing either.
Absolutely.
You know? Even people with happy relationships sometimes don't know how they got there. It's like, oh, we got a happy. I don't know how this happened. It just happened. And they're doing the right thing, but they're not they're not cognitively aware that the thing they did was the right thing. It just was the thing that seemed instinctually correct to them.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to put some real thought into how we do relationships, because we don't have that benefit of this strong culture of marriage and family and well-sorted social market that we would have had, 150 years ago, or even less in some places. And yeah, you need to, when you make interactions with him afterwards, you need to think about it. So I did this, and then it went that way, and that's not the way I wanted it to go. What can I do differently? And really make some notes about it. This is something that when you have children, you're going to then teach your children as well. This is how we repair our sexual market, is by really taking it seriously and paying attention to the details.
That makes so much sense.
Does Leila, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to a couple of things. On the point of, Noah talked a little bit about how men need to earn their place in the relationship and earn your love and respect as a woman. And he's not going to be as grateful for something he didn't earn. But not only that, it actually plants self-doubt in him. I think if he didn't have to work for it, then that means any other Joe Schmo could have come along and won your love without earning it as well. So really, how good of a man is he? And if he can't see himself as the best man in your life because you didn't put up a standard that he needed to earn, then he's diminished in the relationship. He needs to be the best man ever in your life. So he needs to have shown and proved and earned that place. Yeah. So, and also I heard from you, Rachel, that there were some things that you needed to see from him before you were ready for commitment. Yeah. So how would you feel if he won your love without earning it? And it sounds to me like you would feel dissatisfied. You would feel diminished.
I would feel like I had settled and forced something to happen just so I could have security. And I would prefer to have abundance, and a happy life where my husband leads me and I respect him and he respects me. So I don't want that.
Right. So
but it's really so tempting to just gravitate into security.
Right. Like, and like Noah says, we as humans have this tendency to laziness, and I'm not calling you lazy, but we all want to be efficient and get the most we can with the least effort. So I kind of see that, like you said, going out on other dates is effort, and being brave enough to go and see other people that you aren't interested in. That's a lot of effort, and it's scary. And, there's that, possibility of him, having upset feelings, but that's really where you got to go, because he needs to feel that upset and that scarcity that he might not win the race. There has to be that possibility that he could lose in order for him to surge ahead. And like if you win a race against toddlers, it's not a very satisfying victory, right? You need to be running your hardest. So he needs to know there's some real competition. And if you are shying away from providing that scenario, then really that is falling into the laziness trap on the female side, just as it could be on the male side if he wants to just fall into exclusivity without having to put himself out there and ask and make the ask. That's risky. He has to be forced into taking that risk, and you have to push it even though it's hard. That's the hard thing that you can't be lazy about. You just can't.
It makes it so much easier, I think, for me as a woman when I think about it. Like, I'm stealing something from him by giving him this. Like, for example, it's sometimes tempting to me to want to offer to split. I'm not even a feminist, but I want to offer to split bills. I've even wanted to pull a door open because I don't want to seem like I'm expecting too much. But it's like when you create that space, I'm giving him something. I'm not taking something away. But that's actually super hard because I would prefer to try to control something and get my outcome. So I do need to just step back and give him his job that he could pursue me. And I know he'd prefer that and he'd enjoy that.
Yeah.
Well, when you talk to young men today, so many of them, they feel like they don't have a purpose. This is often why they're not as successful as they could be. Their job sucks because it doesn't really have any vital necessity to civilization to do what they're doing. They don't like the people they work with. Their basic life has not got any real reason,
Right.
reason to do what they're doing. And I asked them, what reason do you want? And they're like, one of the things they commonly mention is, I want to be needed. I want to be needed. I want my wife to need me. I want my children to need me. And they recognize that the moment they have a woman that needs them, everything else in their life will get better, because they're like, I now have a reason to go to work besides I just need to pay my bills at the end of the month. Like, that's not why I'm going to work now. I'm going to work to look after my wife. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z because I want to make my woman happy. I'm creating a nice environment for her sake. And men, they need to be needed. Men need to be needed. And if you show that you don't, you're paying half the bills, you can open the doors, you can look at, I'm a strong, independent woman. Then men are like, if you don't need me, you're not fulfilling one of my major psychological needs, and I'll look for a woman that does need me. I mean, women can also want to be needed too, but they tend to want to be needed by children. That's their instinct. And they want a man that doesn't need constant hand holding. Otherwise, they'll start treating him like a child.
Right.
But yeah, you're stealing something from him if you act too independently. It's the same as him not committing to you. You might say it's the exact same sin. Him not committing and you being too independent are the same sin, but for different children.
Oh yeah, that makes so much sense. And they feed off each other.
Yeah. And the more independent you look, the less desirous he is of committing.
Well, I've already had good luck with this because I told him my ambition in life is to have children and be a stay-at-home mom, and he just went out and got a better job immediately. So I was like really happy with that.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like I'm encouraging men to, unless they have major problems, date first, then improve everything else. Like kind of do it simultaneously, but focus on dating and then improving.
Oh, really?
Because you need some sort of a reason. Because it's like, why should I get fit? Like, why should I eat better food? Like, I don't care. Nobody cares what I look like. Well, go find someone that does care what you look like. Find someone that does care that you're happy in your job. Find someone that just cares that you're smiling and happy.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to do that. And this is the problem of started in the 20th century. It used to be like you lived with your parents and they cared how you turned out, and you had to help them with the family farm or whatever it was. So you were always active in doing stuff. And you worked with your family, you worked with people you loved, and then you got married. There was no like big, long single part where you can get into this kind of quicksand of nobody cares about me and I don't care about anybody else nihilism. And that affects so many young men. And the thing that snaps them out of that is having a purpose, having a wife, and then children. That's their purpose. Married men earn more than single men on average. Yeah. Men with children earn more than married men without children. Because, and I noticed this, the moment that my wife got pregnant, every contract I was negotiating, every business deal I was half in the middle of, everyone was like, oh, you're going to have a kid? Well, let's see if we can help you get this concluded better in your favor. And people would work more in my favor because I had kids coming up. People know that you need to be more ambitious when you have kids, and they help you with that. The whole world reflects that back to you. And I think both for men and women, a lot of times getting out there in the dating market is more important than like going to the gym and lifting weights, because you get out there and then you got a reason to go to the gym and lift weights. You got a reason to eat well. You got, for a man, you look around and you go, oh man, I'm like the weak link in this room. I got to pull myself up. But if you're by yourself in your house playing video games, you don't see that.
Absolutely. That's powerful. Yeah,
I think that for a lot of things, it's just doing stuff will get you where you want to go, even if you're not exactly sure what you're doing is correct. Do something, you know. And with getting commitment, try some experiments. Talk to them about how you feel. And it really is experimental, because we don't have a straight line between here and what we want. Not a straight line. It's not obvious. And we talk about, people talk about shit tests. I don't really like that word. It's just, that's what everyone knows it as.
Yes.
A lot of the tests that we do, like I did all kinds of tests to my wife before we married to see what kind of a person she was. I would say things and then try to see how she responded to those things. I would do things and see how she responded to them. And that told me a lot about her. And what we were really doing is you're testing the other person, because when it comes down to it, this is not about you and him. This is about your children.
Yes.
You know, all these tests you're doing, you know, if you take the lead, that does take away from him. That's true. But worse is, if he can't commit to you, how's he going to commit to being a good father?
Absolutely.
You know, and fatherhood, to some degree, it kind of is thrust upon us. We used to become fathers, but it is kind of thrust upon us. And because we don't know what the child's going to come out like.
Right.
We have to be committed to whatever child comes out of our wife, we're committed to. That's our kid. You know, doesn't matter if he reminds us of the relative that we don't like, you know, gets our uncle that we don't like or something, a few genes from there, and he's got some personality issues. We have to be really committed, which means we start when we're younger, committing to friends. You know, we commit to friendships, we commit to romantic relationships, and then we commit to our children. And the reality is, it's all about the kids. And if we get comfortable committing, comfortable with the process of committing, it's, like we said, it's not just random committing. Leila it was interesting what she said. It's like, it's lowering your value. And we talk about sexual market. So it's kind of like, if you were to debase the currency, if you just give away free money like crazy, unlimited, then the value of that money is going to start dropping. It would be worth nothing. If we give away our love without a commitment, if we make our love, if we don't keep it, it's a scarce thing. You know, if you want it, you got to commit to it. Then we're not showing its true value. And like we mentioned earlier, you're right at the peak of your sexual market value. So you have, in a way, you have all the cards on your side. How much older is he than you are?
He's actually my age.
Oh, okay, exactly. So it's my wife's my age too, a couple months younger. So it's actually more difficult for a man to marry a woman his own age than a younger woman, because his sexual market value should be hitting its peak around 30 to 35 in general.
Right.
And so he's way off his sexual market value.
Yes.
So for him to get, and I know you're a beautiful young woman. I've seen your pictures, and you don't have a string of, you know, failed romances in the past where your heart is so broken that it can barely love again. And you don't have, you know, major health problems, or you have nothing, no reason why you're at a good high sexual market value. So for him, he kind of knows he has to, instinctually, he knows that he's doing well by dating you. The issue is like I said, getting him to commit, getting him to figure this out. And this is something men should realize as well who are watching this. This isn't just advice for women. If you're a man and you really like a woman, lock her down before somebody else does. Because if she's dating other men, and she should be, if she is really a good woman, excuse me, she'll have lots of attention from other men, and some of them might be better than you. So if you want to get her, you have to commit to her, because some of those other men might not want to commit. So you got to make that commitment, and you know, you need to make sure she's the woman you want, and then commit. Like, if you know what you want, what are you waiting for? Yeah, I know couples that have dated for multiple years, and my thing was like, you obviously don't really love each other if you're dating for 5 years.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want that at all.
No, 5 years, you should be having kids already.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's because you know this. I've spoken to you before. Having children younger is a whole lot easier than having children older. unfortunately waited till my mid-30s to start having kids. And that was a whole lot more difficult than if I had them in my mid-20s.
Right.
Your life is more complex. You have a little less energy, and it's just not quite the same as doing it in your 20s. So, especially for women, since they do most of the work of childbearing, all the work of childbearing.
Yeah.
We just help out at the beginning.
Yeah, this is the easiest time in my life to be pregnant and birth children. If anything, it's getting harder. Like 20, you're probably 18 even. You're really strong and healthy.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, this is something I want to do now. And I tell people directly when I go on dates, yeah, I want to be a mother and I want to get married. I don't know if that's what you're looking for. I don't know. Like, it's no pressure on him. He doesn't have to be the guy. I'm just upfront with, this is what I want. And I've had pretty good results with weeding people out. And like you said, usually guys in their late 20s that are like accountants or something are the guys that are like, yeah, that's interesting to me. And they'll keep asking me out. Where am I going with this? So yeah, definitely. This is when I'm doing it. And I tell men that up front. So yeah, now I just need to stick to my guns and keep dating guys to keep this process going.
I'll tell you something. There is nothing more attractive to a good man than a woman in her early 20s who says, I want to have children. That is
really?
Yes. That is super, super attractive, because you're not just getting, you're getting a woman, I tell a lot of guys, they're like, oh, I met this woman and she's pretty good, but she's got this and this problem, but she wants to have kids. I'm like, that's the most important thing. She wants to have kids. She's in your age bracket and she wants to have children, and not like career focused or something like this. Everything else you can work with. If she doesn't want to have kids, why bother marrying her? Like, it's not make sense. And so there's definitely, that is an excellent thing for women to say.
I've had really good luck with it.
Yeah. Basically, what is it that attracts men to women is fertility. And then on top of that, she says, I want to have kids. This is super, super interesting and attractive for men. It's a great strategy. And it is important for women to be very upfront. A lot of guys are like, let's just take things slow. Well, yeah, you got, 15 years until you get between early adulthood and you start to hit your sexual market value peak. And women have like a couple of years between they're an adult and their sexual market peak starts to decline. It's like, it's only a few years. So of course they're good. The men are very relaxed about this. And it's, the thing is though, I'm a huge advocate of people marrying young, even men as well, even if they're not at their sexual market value peak, because they will hit a much higher peak if they marry young, because having a wife and children makes you do the things that make you a better man.
Right.
You have to be a better man when you have a wife and kids, a better man than you would have been otherwise. Whereas if you're single, you can be a pretty crappy guy if you're single, because you don't care, nobody else cares. There's not much social motivation. Maybe your friends care, but they're probably all single too.
Right.
So, excellent. So is this helpful for you?
This is extremely helpful for me. I just need confirmation because I'm so feeling insecure about moving forward and dating other guys and risking this guy who is in so many ways better than anything I ever imagined, So I don't want to risk that. But there are also other guys out there that would be great husbands and fathers. And I don't want to get resentful towards this man I'm dating because he hasn't given me commitment. And I would be resentful because I'm wasting time with him.
Now, that's super important. A relationship can't have any resentment. That's toxic, completely poisonous.
Absolutely. And I think women get resentful when men don't give that to them. And that's why I need to be meeting my own needs and out there looking out for my own eggs while they're here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been extremely helpful to me. I so appreciate it, Noah and Leila. Leila especially, you've given me so much good advice lately. Noah, I sometimes just need a man to say it and give me all this information. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
You're going to need ongoing reassurance. So this is something that you're very smart to have done. You're forming around you a little support network. Anyone dating on their own is vulnerable. We are not. Sometimes the circles that we run in are a bit excessively individualistic. And that's fine when it comes to what you want to believe. I'm going to believe what I want to believe, and I'm individualistic. When it comes to doing something social, and dating is a social activity. You know, you marry someone, you marry their family. It's really social. It's a group activity, and you need to have a support network. You need other people around you. Anyone who's dating on their own is vulnerable.
Yes.
Vulnerable to manipulation, manipulating yourself too. You might manipulate yourself as well.
Yes.
You're vulnerable to desperation. You're vulnerable to thinking that your situation is way outside the norm when actually your situation is the norm. And having other people to talk to, that helps you to normalize things, helps you to avoid bad decisions. And if I, heaven forbid, something happened to my wife and I was single again, I would not date without making sure I had a strong support network with some other men and women that I could talk to and run past them ideas about who I was dating. It would be, it doesn't matter how much I know. People say, oh, you're really good at discovering what people are like. Yeah, but I can't trust my own wisdom when I'm the one dating, because it's too easy to lie to yourself. So keep that support network, keep strengthening it, go to them when you need help and advice. And sometimes it's just a matter of someone to listen to you so you can say out loud the things you're thinking and feeling. So continue that. Very successful. And thank you, Leila. And thank you, Rachel, for joining us. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
I have one thing to run past you. I don't know if you want to do it now.
Sure, sure.
So as you're talking, and I kind of mentioned this to Leila last night, I have the opportunity to kind of clarify with him. So he's asked me to go to church with me tomorrow. He's coming over to our house for dinner because he requested to meet my family. So I've asked him, at Leila's advice, to kind of screen him and not be super warm. Just give him the opportunity to win their hearts and not just be like, hey, welcome. But have my dad really interview him, have my brothers really interview him, and kind of a little bit stand off. So he's coming over. I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback on this. He's coming over, and then he requested to go to church with me. And I told Leila I'm not really comfortable with that, because when you take a man to church in a really conservative church, and it's clear that there's something between you and you're not boyfriend and girlfriend and you don't have this plan in place, people are going to be wondering why I'm just coming in there. Like, they're going to come over and meet him and find I'm just bringing a guy to church. And, you know, it's kind of ambiguous what the status of the man is. So it's bad for my sexual market value to do that, because I have potential suitors at the church. And not only that, I have a reputation to protect. So I've told him, yes, yeah, you're welcome to come to church with me to see what my church is like. But I would like to today, when he calls me, he usually calls me at some point, be like, hey, you know, I'm just not really comfortable bringing you to church. He wasn't raised in church, so I'll just explain to him my reputation situation, won't mention other guys or anything, but just like, hey, it's not going to be smiled upon. I would prefer not to do this until we have more commitment in place. And Leila was kind of helping me with the words, like to say I'm uncomfortable, kind of like what you were saying. So do you think something like that, that's not pushy, right? That's just me being like, hey, we don't have a title or the commitment I would like. Do you think that's a good opportunity? How would you suggest I approach that?
Well, I would say, I wouldn't say I feel uncomfortable bringing you. It's, I would feel uncomfortable bringing a man, any man. It does not, it's not, you are not defective. It's that
I would even say I would be proud to show you off, but
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say that. Because I don't know how perceptive he will be, and you don't want to confuse him with a positive and negative in the same sentence. Sounds funny, but it's not an IQ issue. It's just women are much better at perceiving social cues than men. So you don't want to give them a complex social cue. And I would say that in my church is very conservative, and you know, myself or any of the other young girls, we would feel very uncomfortable bringing a man with us to church if we didn't have like some sort of a committed relationship, you know, something exclusive, because my church really takes relationships seriously. Like really seriously. And, you know, I'd love to bring you to church one day, like, because you're not saying, I don't like you, go away. You're saying at this moment, so the future can hold more. And then he needs to get the idea that that the commitment is the more, because you're going to say it's the lack of commitment that I can't do it.
Mhm.
He needs to piece that together. That's like we're testing empathy to some degree. We're testing how fast people put puzzles together. So intelligence too, and that's a lot what women are testing for, because they need a guy who can, his intelligence is connected to how many resources you can bring in. So that's a bit of a test there. See how he figures it out. And I think before, has he met your family yet?
Briefly, when he picked me up for a date, he came in and met them. So very briefly.
I wouldn't bring someone to church like that, in a very conservative church especially, till they'd at least had a meal with your family at minimum. Because what's going to happen is the church elders are going to go to your dad if there's any question and go, do you know this guy that's hanging around your daughter? He's like, I met him once. And that makes your dad look bad, you know?
Yes, it makes us all look bad.
Yeah, exactly. Give them time for your dad to filter him a little bit and get to know him. Like I would say the next step would be to encourage him to have a meal with your family.
Mm-hmm.
Or even better, next step would be, like, he should be doing this. When I was interested in my wife, I said to my father-in-law, future father-in-law, yeah, I want to have a coffee with you. He doesn't drink coffee, it turned out, but yeah, let's just talk. And I talked to him for a while to get to know him better. He should be saying to your dad, hey, you want to have a coffee together? And then like his conversation should be, how do I make your daughter happy? And your dad should be like, who are you and what do you want with my daughter?
I know. Yes, I would love that.
Yeah, and that should be something. If he doesn't suggest that, you might say to your father, and again, you need to treat your father in that same way. He is a man. You need to treat him in the same way, where you don't tell him what to do, but you express how you feel, and you say to him, Dad, I would really love it, and you have to say it with emotion, so that like the less perceptive masculine mind will pick this up, less socially perceptive. Yeah, I would really love it if you could have a conversation with your boyfriend's name, and you know, just the two of you, and get to know him a little bit, because I value your opinion of him, and that would make me feel much more comfortable with him, and your opinion is important to me, Dad. And then, you know, like I'm even down a little tear, so because I'm trying to imagine I'm you saying this, you know, and you say that, and you need to lay on the emotion that this is important to you, because that is pretty important. Your dad filtering potential men in your life is pretty important, and hopefully that will stimulate your dad to do that. Even better is it when you ask when you say that to your dad, if possible, it's just your dad and you, or your dad and you and your mom, because then your mom will say, yeah, I think she needs that, and will maybe help him if he doesn't perceive it the first go around to know what to do. Because either your boyfriend or your father should be initiating this. You know, one of the two of them should be doing that, and that's like, I would say that should happen fairly early in a relationship. I would if I had a daughter, I'd want to talk to the guy before they made some sort of commitment.
Yeah. You
know, like I'd want to screen the guys before. And that might be instinctually a reason why he's not committing to you. Like your dad's a pretty like masculine guy, and I understand he's a big guy too, right?
He's tall.
Yeah, he's tall, he's big. So what happens is if a guy likes you and he finds your dad maybe a little intimidating, he may not feel comfortable to commit to you until he feels it's okay with your dad. That there is a strong instinct of that. Even if you asked a man and he says no, that's nothing to do with it whatsoever. It does. He just doesn't know it. He doesn't realize it. And you need to be okay with your spouse's family. If you're not, you're never going to have a good relationship. And talking to the dad, getting things sorted with the dad, then later having a dinner, then commitment. I would say that's a very comfortable order to go in. That's a logical order.
He might even be thinking of some of that, since he hasn't asked me for commitment, because he introduced me to his brother. He went out of his way to do that. And now I'm going to meet his father on Thursday. His mother's not here. But so he's putting forth effort for me to meet his family, and then he requested to meet everybody in my family. So maybe that's holding him back.
He's preparing for commitment, What this is, he's preparing for commitment. And his question is, he knows if he marries a great woman with a crazy family, he's still going to have a difficult time.
Yes.
It's a tough life when you marry someone with a crazy family.
Right.
And he probably is, that could be something that's holding him back from making commitment. You know, because like I said, sometimes it's just lack of knowledge. But on the other hand, if he's talking to you about, you know, buying houses and what your kids' names are going to be and stuff like this, his mind is in the direction of commitment, but something's holding him back. And yeah, definitely try to see if you can get your father and him, and then the rest of the family. Like the dad is the door to the house. You know, you get past the gatekeeper, and then you get to know the rest of the family, and then you say, oh, okay, I can live with this family. I can spend, you know, Christmases with this family. I can. I would love to have children that go and spend time with their grandparents. I'm not worried that they're completely messed up and are gonna, you know, I'm gonna have to deal with crazy in-laws the rest of my life. And this is a serious concern for a lot of men.
Absolutely.
And women too. So yeah, I would definitely do that. And then when they do come, try to stay out of the way. Let it be him with your family, not you and him with your family, because that's otherwise it's not natural.
You're not on his side yet. You're still on your family's side until they approve him. I have a suggestion. I was wondering if you could have a conversation with your dad ASAP, Rachel, and then when he calls, and you can, you know, explain what we've just said as far as what you need from your dad, but in the emotional way that Noah's talking about. Then when he calls you, and he asks you about church tomorrow, like I'm imagining myself and I'm feeling these emotions of like, I'm a scared little girl, you know, right? Yes. Like, this is scary. Let me get my dad on the phone. Like, do you want to talk to my dad? Because like, and you know, I don't know what to say, you know, like he's the speaker of the family. If you have this question for him, I don't know what to say. Would you like to talk to him? Maybe he can tell you, you know, and then it's like, hello, you know, you want to do what? You want to come to church? Well, we haven't even met you. You're coming to dinner tomorrow, right? Well, I'll see you then, you know, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Right. Dinner. Commit to dinner before we commit to going to church. So your dad will talk commitment, you know, and we got to commit to have dinner, then we commit for church. Then another time, another weekend. You know, it's not you. It's that, you know, I have to protect my family. Absolutely. I don't know you yet. And this is the same, like anyone who is excessively, we talked about reducing sexual market value by being too easy to give away our affections. Well, the same thing happens when fathers are the gatekeepers to the family, and when we allow it too easy access to our children and our family, without screening people first for quality, then we're also degrading the value of our family, and our children will feel that. So we don't want to be too easy on that. We want to make sure only the best quality people can be around our children. Right.
I had a couple of other quick points if there's nothing else on this subject right now. Is that okay? Okay. So yeah, I'm really glad we covered that, like having your family help you to earn that commitment, and having them demonstrate. And also, I would just want to clarify, you don't want to speak in terms of time, because time isn't the thing that needs to happen before XYZ happens. It's the commitment that needs to happen before these other steps. So letting him know that it's his action that is the catalyst and the trigger for him to get what he wants. It's you, okay, you take this action, then you get what you want. Not we're just going to allow time to pass and someday we'll get what you want. Right. So
time is not your friend.
No.
Commitment is your friend. Time is not.
I absolutely understand that. Yes.
Right. So then one point we danced around, and I just wanted to name it explicitly, is that studies have shown that women are bad negotiators typically when they're negotiating on behalf of themselves, but they do really well when they're negotiating on behalf of someone else. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about what he needs to do to earn your love, it's hard for you to put up that wall for yourself. But when it is in terms of like something that would be robbed from him and your future and your children in your future, then that's when you're motivated to take those steps that are scary and hard. And then the other thing we talked about was being neutral and versus positive, and not, leaving the negative out of it. So I just want to make sure that you are being enthusiastic and very grateful when there are positives, when he's offering gifts or compliments, so that you've got that real contrast between, wow, I am so excited and happy and thank you, and even jump up and down and clap and smiley faces and stuff, so that when you're
please.
Yeah, acting super feminine and girly is never a turnoff. It's always good. It's always a good thing.
Right. So you want that. So you want that contrast whenever, even if it's a small thing he does that you're happy with, you're very happy. So that when there's a thing you're not happy with and you're neutral, that's very different than that positivity you're giving to reinforce the behavior you want.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, men always complain about lack of clear signals from women, and we're saying then on top of that, don't tell them exactly what to do, and that sounds like we're perpetuating lack of clear signals. But like Leila pointed out, there should be a pretty clear difference between you've done the thing that pleases me and you have not.
Right.
And but the not has to be neutral, because nobody wants the woman to be negative, ever. We want positivity. They're our cheerleader. Cheerleaders don't cheer when this touchdown gets scored against you, but they cheer when you score a touchdown. Then they cheer. When it's going bad, they're kind of neutral, or maybe encouraging you to keep going and don't give up. But they never go, hey, yeah, that was a terrible play, that sucked, get off the field. That's the coach's job. That's another man's job to tell you that. Your woman is your cheerleader there. She's there to keep you built up.
Yes.
I did have one last final point, sorry. So we're talking about how we don't want to tell the man what to do. We don't want to give him the instructions. But I think it is okay, both you and your family, to ask a question. What is your commitment to my daughter, my sister? Or what am I agreeing to? If he's asking something of you, well, I think I want to give it, but I need to know what I'm agreeing to. What are the terms of whatever it is you're asking me for? So when he asks for exclusivity, it's like, okay, you want me to be exclusive to you. What are you pledging to me? What is your commitment to me? So I think that's okay, even though
it's a social contract between two people. You're making a social contract, and contracts, the more explicit that they are, the better they work. And you've probably seen other call-in shows where someone's calling in and the guy will ask the person hosting the call-in show will ask a question, and they get a word salad BS no answer back. And oftentimes people do that because they're not really completely sure what they're thinking about. And for men, before you give a commitment, you need to, on your own at home, think about, this is what it is. You can write it down. I mean, don't feel bad if you need a note to say, this is what I want to commit to. In many traditional societies, Japanese had this more recently, even what they call contract marriage. They have an actual contract. This is what we expect of wife, and this is what we expect of the husband. Does everybody agree? It's really clear. There's no misunderstandings. And after you get married, you can't go, hey, but I thought life would be different. No, you didn't. This is what you agreed to. When people know what they're agreeing to, the commitment is deeper, because we're talking about commitment. But, commitment's not binary. You can be very little bit committed. Like I said, I was committed, but it's not in my heart. Or, I still have some part of me that's not committed. No, you want like complete commitment. And that can't happen if you don't know what you're committing to. You know, you only get that depth of commitment when you're sure what it is. And both on his part and your part. Like, he won't really feel committed if he doesn't know what he's committing to either. And, and I really like the way to ask it, please tell me more. I'm interested in, you know, if you show interest in people, they want to talk about themselves. I'm interested in what you mean by that. Can you explain it more, please? Can you help me? Can you help me to understand what you mean? And because, like I said, you're creating that vacuum. You're pulling the ideas out of him and helping him to clarify it as well.
Right.
When he clarifies what he means by that, that will greatly improve your future relationship. Gives it a solid base.
I just had a light bulb moment. I'm sorry to keep interjecting.
Please, you have great ideas.
You said in the past, Noah, that commitment always has a time frame to it, and I was very confused even at the beginning of my relationship, and I'm just now understanding right at this moment what his commitment is. It's like, I'll be there for you, whatever. So what just made sense to me is, I won't waste your time. That's what he's committing to. I won't waste your time. If I don't see us getting married, I will break it off. That's what he needs to commit to. Am I right?
I like that.
Just went on.
Yeah, if I was committing to date a woman, I would say to her, yeah, I like you a lot. I like this and this and this about you. These are the virtues I appreciate about you. I could see you being the mother of my children. And I want us to date exclusively so that we can really focus on our relationship and see if it'll work. And I think if we don't know in 3 months, we're never going to know. Okay? Right. So let's like this focus on this. We're going to spend at least a couple of nights a week together, maybe talk on the phone a couple of times as well. And we got lots of questions to go over to see if we're compatible. And let's have some fun doing this and see what we can come up with in 3 months. We'll discuss it again at the end of the 3 months. Maybe if we need a little more time, we take it. If not, I mean, we should know if we should get married or not. Then let's get engaged after that if we agree. If not, we should go our separate ways.
I love that.
That gives, see, the commitment that men make to women is it helps them a lot to reduce the anxiety in the relationship. If a woman is hyper anxious in the relationship, you don't know who she really is. All you see is the neuroticism. You're going to get a terrible impression of her because you're not treating her right. You're not helping her to be calm and helping her to feel secure and safe. You're not really seeing how she will act if you gave the commitment. And it's unloving to do that. It's one of the first real, I mean, when you go on a date, you bring flowers and stuff. That's not about love. That's just about being a decent human being and treating your date like you are thankful that they went out with you. Right. One of the first true acts of love in a relationship is commitment. Mm-hmm. Like you don't commit to a person because you're like, yeah, you look good and I'm going to commit to you. No, you commit because there's some love there. It's already started to become actual love inside of you. Then you're willing to commit. I mean, there's an intellectual part, but there has to be that feeling there. Liking someone's not good enough. Loving them is required for commitment. And sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, have you, like, usually he just throws things out at me. Like, on our very first date, he said, I promise not to waste your time. So is that, like, that's kind of a commitment right there.
That's a commitment, but it's too open-ended. It's a great thing to say on a first date. It's a great, how long have you been dating?
For almost 4 weeks, and we've been on like 12, 13 dates. Okay,
yeah. After about 6 dates, you should know whether you want to be exclusive or not.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 dates. I mean, if he's already wanting to come and have dinner at your house, I mean, I wouldn't have dinner at the house of someone that I wasn't pretty darn close to exclusive with. Like, right. I would probably say to that person, I would want to meet the family before I was completely exclusive with them. But right. Yeah, you're getting to that point now where that should be expected.
Yes.
You know? If it was 4 weeks and 2 dates, that's different.
Yes.
Because you don't have enough time together. But it's moving in that direction. And like I said, you know, the next step is he should speak to your father a bit. He should speak to your family, get to know them. That might actually be what pushes him over and says, okay, you know, on your dates, things are working out. But he might say, I don't know her family yet, and I won't commit till I know her family. We don't know what's in his mind. Letting him know your family, He knows you. He knows your family. He's been with you for 4 weeks on several, on more than a dozen dates. Okay, now he knows there's no reason, nothing else he needs to know to commit to exclusivity. He's not marrying you. He's just committing to exclusivity. This is like, you know, a 3-month commitment. Let's figure out if we work together. And I would expect that to happen soon after meeting your family.
Okay, good.
I'm just realizing all these missteps in my relationship, and also the issues that we're talking about with the other women that, you know, are in our circle. It's that is the real danger, right? The real danger is to get out there without a time frame and be anxious because you don't know. And so the best thing he can do for you is to tell you what that time frame is, so you don't have to wonder. And so I think it's perfect that he promised on your first date not to waste your time, because you can bring that back up again and say, you promised not to waste my time. I need to know what that means to you.
I felt so grateful that you promised not to waste my time. And, you know, like be grateful, really grateful about that, because that is important. That shows that he even recognizes the concept that women have a short window to get married in. There's a lot of guys don't even seem to recognize that as a concept. Leila, we know some people in our social circle that it's been like 10, they're with a guy like 10 years and he's stringing them along. He doesn't commit to them. He doesn't marry them. He won't commit to having kids. He won't even commit that they'll have a future tomorrow, you know, and they go through that through their entire peak SMV years, and then they break up.
That's terrible. That's a nightmare. That's like a tragedy.
Yeah.
And he's going to go find another 20 and do it again. That's
so articulating to him, I think that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is wasting my time. And thank you for articulating that on our first date, that you would not do that. And so now if he's asking for exclusivity or he's asking for these other steps, it's like, please tell me more about what I have to look forward to, and how you can reassure me, because I want to be, I love that, Noah, that you said that you're not getting to know the real woman if she's anxious. That is so true. You just turn into the worst nightmare of a girlfriend if you're anxious, and drive him away. And so I want to show up to this relationship as the best woman I can be. And I know, because I know myself, I know that I need a time frame that is.
So I can't ask him for a time frame?
Well, you could say how long, you know, if you're dating exclusively, the whole purpose is to figure out if you're marriage compatible. If he's interested in going to your church, then he's probably got some Christian ideas about marriage as well. So he's probably understanding that, like, you know, living together isn't going to happen.
Oh,
you know,
he completely understands
that. It's not going to happen. We're not dating for fun. We're dating to see if we can get married. How long do you think that takes? Like if I was a guy, I would be very pointed to him. But as a woman, you would be like, you would ask about. I would feel more secure knowing how long you think that would take. How long do you think that would take? And he might say, well, I don't know. And you can say, you know, what kind of things do you think we need to find out about each other? And then he'll say, oh, well, maybe we need to know this and this and this. And you think, and then you can ask again, yes, I think that's great. And maybe you can even suggest a thing or two that's important to work out before you decide about marriage. And then now he's got an idea of the workload, like the tasks that need to be done, or the things that need to be accomplished. And then you can ask him again, how long do you think it would take to accomplish those things? Now it's a little more specific question. You're not telling him what to do. You're not saying you have to commit for 3 months. You're saying, how long do you think it would take? And if he says 6 years, then you go, no way. And if he says 3 to 6 months, you go, that sounds great. I think three months is quite reasonable, 3-4 months. And you say, look, I think that's great. What would happen if we find out we're not compatible? Because that's what you want too. You want a man to commit to make a decision, whatever the decision is.
Yes.
Until he doesn't.
That's the most merciful
go or
thing
no
he
go.
could do. That's because that is what men do. They stay without commitment. They stay when they know they don't want to get married, but they just stay anyway. And so that's the great fear he needs to alleviate for you, is that if I don't see marriage coming up, I will end the relationship.
It's the honorable thing to do. Men used to have a lot of pressure on them, societal pressure to, and partly from the woman's family, but just society in general, so they didn't ruin their reputation, to either marry the girl or let her go. Don't like half-ass it. Nowadays, nobody criticizes anybody for anything. If I had a friend that was dating a girl for multiple years, I would be on him like chewing him out regularly until he either didn't want to see me anymore, or married her, or separated from her, one or the other. But you know, I push the men that are around me to be decisive and assertive and make decisions and get stuff done, because I consider that's part of being a good friend. Most people don't have a friend that'll do that. Most men don't.
That's such a good point. I had never thought of that, that a man wasting a woman's time as part of his past history, that should be the kiss of death. That should be the big red mark on him, is that you don't ever do that. You don't ever get away with wasting a woman's.
You waste a woman's highly fertile years and she doesn't have kids afterwards, it's almost like you murdered those children. Like ethically and morally, I see it as a really big deal. It really makes me angry when men waste women's fertile years, the same way that you know, when women get married and then steal the children from the father and divorce him. To me, it's the same crime done in two different sides. You're stealing someone's children from them. Is what it is. Yeah. You know, you're either stealing their potential to have children or their actual children. It's the same thing, and it should make people angry when men waste women's sexual market value. It should make it angry. So many men complain there's no good women out there. Meanwhile, they've wasted, you know, 10, 20 years of other women's sexual market value by dating them and going nowhere with them, or just living with them and not committing to them, and all kinds of stuff. And then they have the gall to complain that there's not enough good women out there, you know?
Just like a woman who sleeps around, that ruins her reputation. A man who doesn't commit, that should ruin his reputation.
Yeah. And actually, it's interesting you mentioned that, because there is this super tight connection between a man's willingness to commit and his access to sex. Those two things are connected. So if no women were willing to sleep with men until they had commitment, and no men could get to sleep with a woman until they had commitment, we'd be finding it much easier for people to make commitments to each other. There would be more pressure to, you know, get their act together, because it is not as hard as people make it out to decide if you should marry someone or not. The problem is there's so many screwed up people that coming together is a lot more difficult than it used to be.
Right. Well, and even if you're the woman that doesn't believe in sex before marriage, which I am, other women will have sex before marriage. So that really decreases all men's desire to commit to me, even though I still think it raises my chance of getting married quite a bit. But anyways, yeah, it's just a totally broken and messed up thing.
Yeah, this is so many light bulbs today, because I was just thinking, like, that's why men, when they get married, then all of a sudden women are throwing themselves at them because they've just demonstrated that they can commit. So it makes no sense, but it does in a way.
I take my son to the park. Everyone knows I'm married, because like half the time I go there with my wife, or she goes with him. So, and it's a neighborhood, so everyone knows. And I have all kinds of women talking to me, like being excessively friendly, and I know immediately their marriage isn't good, right? Because otherwise they would just be like, hey, hi, because there are other women that come up and oh, hey, how's your son doing? And it's a different conversation. They're trying to in a different way, and I'm like almost backing up slowly getting away from them, because you know I don't want to even step in that general direction. And it's there is such an issue with people not having proper boundaries, ruining the entire sexual market. It's just like as if someone was able to print unlimited cash, and it ruins and crashes the whole market, even though you are making the best decisions. Mm-hmm. You're in a market that's been damaged, and so it's worse off for you, you know?
Right.
Not that you should, change your strategy. Your strategy is the right one. When everyone else is doing wrong, we should still do right.
The thing is, if a man's interested in me, he's forced to decide if he wants to commit to me or not. Yeah. The thing is, though, guys will actually date you even without sex for a certain period of time if they enjoy your company. So yeah. I still do run into men not making a decision, and I have ran into that. Yeah. So yeah, I think I need to implement what we're talking about to change that. Because sex alone isn't quite enough by itself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times too, part of it is if your parents have a great relationship, then you are, as a man, I'm talking from a man's perspective, then you want to replicate that, and you want to do it as soon as possible. So, the moment you get semi-independent, like you could afford to have a wife, you're going to be out there looking, and you're going to want to commit and move the whole process along fairly quickly.
Right.
And if, unfortunately, like, he was raised by one parent, so many people, their parents were together, but they're unhappy, or they were together, but they didn't really explain to the kids anything about relationships or why they work. Well, when that happens, your entire desire to commit is reduced dramatically. And that's a huge problem nowadays. Guys don't know exactly what they're committing to. Like what is a good relationship like? It's not just the sex, as you mentioned. It's your company, it's sex, but it's so much more. It really is that feeling of completeness and having a purpose, having someone else to look after, to take care of, having a purpose, knowing that you're going to have children, which means that your entire future is going to be better. I mean, your life can be pretty cool in your 20s and 30s and 40s if you had no kids, but then you get older than that and you start, you realize you're missing something. Right. And I would not want to go through my old age without children and grandchildren. That would be absolute torture. And there's no substitute. You can't kind of adopt another family and look and play with their kids. It's not the same thing. When you're old and sick, they're not going to be the ones paying attention to you. It'll be your own kids. Yeah,
absolutely.
There's no substitute for that. And the joy you get from that, the pleasure. I mean, you've seen some of my Facebook posts about how much joy I get from spending time with my son. When you marry the right woman, all that is coming, and you're excited about what's going to happen, and your whole life is looking up. So it's a whole heck of a lot more than just sex, and most of that you can't get if you don't marry the woman. Right. You don't really know what's happening. That there's not that kind of commitment. Excellent. Very good. Was there anything else?
I think that's good for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for talking with us today. Thank you very much, Leila, for your excellent advice, and for all of the interjections you put were very useful. They're exactly what we needed. And Rachel, I really hope that this is helpful for you. I'd like to hear back from you in the future how this went, and how this went with your improved your relationship, hopefully. And I'm very curious to see the reaction of your family as well to you encouraging that interaction between your boyfriend and them. I'd really like to hear what happens, even if it's just private communication. And if you're watching this and you want to know more about what we're doing, go to smv4k.com, and you can see more interviews like this, and you can see lots of information helping you to make good dating and courtship decisions. And you can also get a hold of me for private coaching as well. Thank you, and have a good day, everyone.